Lizardmen. Entrust your noble soul in your sword. Final battle. Fight!
Yes, the classic Lizardmen, Saurus infantry, a great mid-tier infantry overall, although, in my opinion, not the best mid-tier infantry. What they are the best at, though, is weapon strength. Massive 52 weapon damage. They are the backbone of Lizardmen, somehow available in Tier 1 in campaign, which seems like a little bit of an oversight to me, but hey, there you go. 34 defense, 29 attack. Only 16 charge, so their combat stats are fairly low. Only 60 armor as well. Behind something like Graveguard, Longbeards, Chaos Warriors, or some other units in this similar class. But again, that 52 weapon damage, absolutely massive. Today, Rubber Duck of War taking Nakai's faction with Red Crested Skink Chief on foot. Very, very cheap. Anti-large AP, not the best stats in the world also, but he can do okay. It's also very cheap. More importantly, a couple of bow stegodons here. Lord Croak, got some Red Crest, cohort of Sotek, and another Red Crest over here. Up against Clan Angrand coming in here. They've got just a Dwarf Lord, a bunch of Slayers. This is, I think, 8 Slayers in total? 7 Slayers in total? Let's see. Maybe not. Maybe I'm way overestimating here, but let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 Slayers. Okay, 2 Giant Slayers, 5 regular Slayers, including the Dragonbacks. We've got Longbeards with great weapons, Bugman's Rangers as well, some Miners with charges up front. So, yeah, one great thing about Saurus in this specific situation, obviously, Slayers have 0 armor. Most of them don't have any physical resistance as well. Only the Regiment of Renown does, so that lowish melee defense, only 32 melee defense, 29 melee attack. Saurus Warriors have a good enough chance to hit that they will absolutely pound these Slayers in the face with their little maces, their little clubs. So let's get in close as the battle unfolds here. The Slayers, of course, faster, are going to maneuver away, but you can see already took a few losses there. They will punch back the Saurus somewhat, but definitely not an engagement they want to be taking, so great use of them so far there. And Rubber Duck of War here is just going to be kind of cycling in and out with these Stegodons, trying to bait the Slayers forward, and then countering with the Saurus here. This one does get lit up by some charges. Since they're kind of moving away, they don't take the full brunt of it, but still a pretty good amount of damage on those couple of volleys of charges. But they did pull those out, right? So they can't hit the lesser armored and lesser mass Red Crests, who actually do have armor piercing. Although they don't have actually a ton of armored targets to go after, funny enough, between the Bugman's Rangers and the Slayers. Actually, rather low armor Dwarf army, and I definitely understand. Looks like we've got some Pterodon Riders as well. I was neglecting. They're going to generate some great value, throw in their poison jabs at the Slayers as well, so Dwarfs definitely feeling the pressure. They're going to continue to move in here. Let's see what they can do. Saurus Warriors definitely will lose to Longbeards. I'll need to do a direct stat comparison, but I mean, I say will. It's hard to say for certain. One thing about Saurus and any unit in this game, to be honest, is there is an element of RNG in any engagement, especially when there's a, pretty close parity between unit stats. Saurus are not likely to win, I should say, against Longbeards. Be a much better way of putting it, but here they do get involved with the Miners with blasting charges. Miners don't have the best stats in the world, but you can see even still the Saurus Warriors not making the best contact with them. Only 18 melee defense there, but that 80 armor does make a pretty significant difference. Stegodon going to be charging over, though, to help make an even more considerable difference. Stegodon also here in the center. Slayers trying to get involved, but the Lizardman force kind of just staying back here, not really overcommitting, and this is one thing that, experienced players like Rubber Duck of War is a nice detonation there on the Miners and the, anyway, from Lord Croak, but he's just keeping a lot of his forces in reserve, not overcommitting. A lot of newer players I see will feel like they have to engage every single unit at all times, and that's just not the case. Oftentimes it's more beneficial, in fact, to leave some or even a lot of units in reserve and only engage whatever your opponent's willing to engage, right? Dwarf Lords coming through here. Yeah, the horn charge right to the face of the Saurus, followed up by a few blasting charges there. Will do some pretty decent damage. Dwarf Lord definitely has enough weapon strength to punch in here, but once he gets surrounded, unit models kind of in his rear arc will be getting less melee defense. Nice bunker bust, pizza delivery from Lord Croak as well, hitting all these Slayers. The Stegodons are definitely going to be taking a lot of damage here, no doubt about that, and tanking a lot of damage, but the Saurus Warriors likewise already generated really nice value fighting off these Slayers here. One of the units is just about down. They do have Enrage. Not necessarily Enrage, but Primal Instincts is what it's actually called. Does give them a buff, +8 melee attack and +16 charge, so they do go up to 37 melee attack in this weakened state. Unfortunately, it doesn't proc until quite low. I mean, I say unfortunately, both fortunately and unfortunately. By using Cold-Blooded, you can get rid of the actual Enrage part of it here, and just have them, you know, gaining the benefit of that stat buff. But at this point, the Dwarfs, I mean, Slayers are relentless. You can see here that they are not giving up the fight, absolutely. And the Saurus are starting to run out of steam somewhat. The one's gone. A lot of the red crests are gone. This unit of Saurus here also still holding out, but Miners with blasting charge is still going. The one unit of very healthy giant Slayers with their anti-large AP is going to be very dangerous, but we'll watch as these Saurus kind of pound these Miners and keep Croak and the Stegodons in the background. Check in with Skink Chief Bro, wherever he's at. He's over here helping to mop up some of these armored units. Has poison and armor piercing. 63 melee attack as well, so he can actually punch pretty hard, but the Dwarf Lord definitely took a lot of damage in that engagement with the Saurus. That's not great necessarily, but yeah, taking quite a while to clean up these Miners over here. And this unit of Saurus actually does end up holding for some time with some support. Lord once again charging in. Righteous Strike. Vengeful Strike even. But the Dwarf Warrior, you can see him kind of like turning this way and that, like all confused, just really not happy about the situation. He is going to try and get out. It looks like the Red Crest also involved. Gets a few attacks there. Lord actually routes. And at this point, Dowie made a nice little push there. Still one more unit of Slayers, unfortunately, had been neglected for some time. Maybe chasing around those Pterodon Riders, trying to defend these Bugman's Rangers. And the Bugman's Rangers are defended. They still got a little bit of ammo left, so maybe they can try and finish things off. Lord Croak actually does go down here, which does help stabilize the balance of power a little bit more. Although some of these Dowie units are shattering. Stegodon here. Cohort of Sotek going to come screen, try and bail it out. This other Stegodon, though, wrapped up in Giant Slayers. Dragonback Slayers not going to be able to get away. Check this out. 55 Saurus here, 102 kills already. Granted, most of those are miners, but still, they're going to move in and help support the Red Crest here. He was actually taking some damage. Slayer's overall DPS is pretty decent. Just high weapon strength in general as well. Not as high as Saurus, obviously, but yeah, got some more miners moving in. Relatively healthy. The Bugman's Ranger is also on station, able to shoot into the side of the Saurus here, so the Saurus probably going to take some significant damage, but no, actually, Bugman's Ranger is turning to shoot the Pterodon Riders, trying to break loose the Dowie Lord, at least keep him from getting chased off. But Stegodon kind of kiting some Slayers over here. That other Stegodon is gone, looks like. We'll keep it close. This unit of Saurus now holding back a ton of Dowie with the Miners getting involved. Thankfully, the Miners won't get too many hits, but even still, I mean, 34 melee defense for a unit in this price range really is not great for kind of a hand weapon and shield unit. Slayers are going to kind of peel, try and go after the Red Crest, and I have to say, in terms of like the actual unit model with the beautiful decapitation there, the Red Crested Skink Chief might be the smallest Lord in the game. I don't know. I need to do some size comparisons. Maybe it's actually the Master Assassin, but there's some pretty small Lords out there. Maybe it's one of the Gobos. I feel like it's probably him, though. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. The Cohort of Sotek, all the way up and around, they pop that, refuse to die, so their entities cannot be killed. They're going to come support this last Saurus unit holding out. You can see some Pteranodons doing stuff out in the distance, chasing various units around. Got the Stegodon back. Stegodon 1200 HP, just continuing to pull these Saurus away. The Slayers away. The last Saurus here do go into that Enrage, whereas Opal Amulet being used on the Skink. Chief here, Red Crest, to try and stay in the fight. There's a handful more Slayers still fighting, but the Bugmans, Rangers, and the Miners are pretty much finished at this point. Miners over here going to get rear charged by some Pteranodons. We've just got that Stegodon just boogieing out in the distance in the desert there. Absolutely beautiful. So we'll fast forward somewhat through this cleanup phase. Lizardmen pretty far ahead on the balance of power at this point with everything left. You know, Red Crest being quite healthy still. The Dwarf Lords basically gone. The cohort of Sotek as well being able to shrug off quite a bit of damage there with that Refuse to Die. They probably have quite a few models that are, you know, 1 HP, but still. Saurus and the cohort get in to handle the last of the Slayers here. Oh yeah, you give it a shot, Dwarf Bro. Definitely give it a shot. Don't know how well it'll go for you, but oof, the last Slayer over on that side of that other unit just gets absolutely destroyed by the Stegodon. Completely amazing. And these last few will suffer a similar fate. Oh, fatality. Even though I'm kind of mixing games here at this point, but that's okay. Man, Soul Calibur honestly had some of the best music of any games of all time. Probably will be using some more music from that as I clip through the Stegodon as it finishes the game. There we go. Big thanks to Reproductive War for sending that one in. Very, very fun stuff. And the Saurus, I mean, this is a pretty ideal situation for them being against the Dwarfs, is for your opponent to take a Slayer-based build. All of them end up paying out a lot of value as a result. Cohort of Sotek, likewise, could have made this video about them specifically, but I mean, they just wreck house also, which actually trade very well into the Slayers, it seems. Pteranodon Riders, likewise, contributing to the battle nicely. Stegodons end up being more tanks here than anything, but still get some pretty decent damage value. Red Crest, considering he's probably about 900 points with this kit, give or take, that's very cost-effective, actually. Lord Croak also doing a pretty decent job as well. For Clan Angren, Miners with Charges actually do end up mostly paying for themselves. Longbeards, not so much. Slayers, kind of a mixed bag. Giant Slayers did decently. Dragonback Slayers are one of the best units in the game, probably. Bugmans also do pay for themselves. I actually kind of like the pick of the Bugmans here. I may go a little bit lighter on the Slayers and maybe take like one more Bugmans. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's an interesting matchup, certainly, from the Dwarfs' perspective. There's actually more than you would think that the Lizardmen can do. But yeah, definitely an interesting game, sort of off meta builds on both sides. Not too much range pressure from the Dwarfs, but I do like the mass Slayers can be very strong. But going back to, and I've talked about a number of these kind of mid-tier Sword and Shield infantry before. Saurus Warriors, I do rank a little bit lower on that list, although their weapon strength is the best that I can remember. I think with anti-infantry, maybe Grave Guards are better, but we'll check that real quick. But in my mind, kind of the top three would be Longbeards, Grave Guards, and Chaos Warriors, right? So you compare Saurus to all of these, all three of these, you know, Grave Guards, 50 more points, 40 weapon strength, so less weapon strength, and even with the bonus versus infantry, less, but still 48, which is pretty close, only 4 difference. Also better melee defense, yeah, less melee attack, but they are undead, so they kind of pay an attack and defense price penalty for that, but 90 armor, plus a silver shield, and the ability to access more or less infinite healing. The Grave Guard are just straight up a better unit overall. Also cause fear, they won't run away. I mean, there's some definite benefits there. Likewise, Longbeards, 100 points cheaper, also better armor, less HP, considerably less HP, which is a pretty significant difference. Armor does help make up for that somewhat, but at the same time, a lot of people are going to bring armor piercing against the Dwarfs because armored infantry, right? Stat-wise, though, much better melee defense, much lower weapon strength, though, and again, that's kind of the main difference here. Melee attack, fairly similar. Longbeard's lower charge, but they pick up all this extra stuff like magic resistance, charge defense against large, immune to psychology, and courage. A lot of extra kind of abilities going into that value as well. And then with Chaos Warriors again, 100 armor, silver shield, much better. Less HP, again, does help kind of make up for the difference in armor there. Chaos Warriors, though, again, much better melee defense, better melee attack. Chaos Warriors actually best melee attack and defense profile of the units we've looked at. Again, less weapon strength, but 20 charge, also pretty decent. You don't have to worry about the primal instincts. And yeah, I mean, you also have great weapon variations too, and we won't go too much into the comparison of like spears versus halberds. Great weapons, that's kind of beyond the scope of this for today. But just in general, I would say Saurus definitely very solid. This is like Saurus and other units, but primarily Saurus are one of the reasons why melee attack buffs are so good for Lizardmen. You know, Horn of Kygor, various other melee attack buffs that you have access to. Especially helps benefit Saurus more than anyone else, just because they can get more value out of that massive weapon strength. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.